And it is a gorgeous 52 degrees this morning up here in Memphis, all over the Southeastern Conference footprint. Rob Browne here with you. We've got a great lineup. EP, Brendan Martin down in Ocala. We're going to be joined by Coach Ellis Johnson, going to be breaking down these games and get his thoughts on this new NFL kickoff rule. Also, Ryan Higgins, Shreveport Bossier Journal, joins us. Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, checks in, talking about that big Texas win at the Big House. Olin Buchanan, also TexAgs.com, checks in, top of the hour. Lot to cover. Smash that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Let's grow the show. We are going to be bringing you great content. Get pen and paper handy, because here we come in about 45 seconds.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with Brendan Martin and Coach Ellis Johnson. Coach, a lot of people have asked me a lot of questions about this weekend. Real quick, in about 45 seconds, your thoughts on the new NFL kickoff rule and who at the insane asylum made that new rule up?
Well, I'm not crazy about it, but I'm going to have to admit, Rob, I don't know all the details and rules on it. Yeah. You know, it started, they did experiment with it, and I think it's in the USFL or USL. I think the whole purpose was injuries, obviously.
Yeah.
And most of the rules that have come with football in the last 10 or 15 years has been about injuries, whether it's reducing spring practice, whether it's cutting back on how many two-a-days, whether it's the kickoff rule, whether it's chop blocks or cut blocks, you know, and things of that nature. So I understand the purpose. I think we'll have to take a little time to iron it out. Some parts of it makes a lot of sense to me as a coach. They're trying to reduce the speed, you know, in the long distance collisions. But right now, either one group's too far this way or that way, I'm not sure, but we're not getting any kind of excitement out of it. And not that the fans are the most important thing in a football game, but they are important, and they better not forget about them.
Right. I agree. Coach, real quick, Doug Dean in Birmingham, part of our show, big fan of yours. He goes, ask Coach if he saw Auburn game against Cal and what Cal was doing defensively to wreck Auburn's game plan. Doug said, it looked to me like their defensive coordinator mixed up looks and coverages, and just before snap would rush a lot or drop 5 in coverage and only rush 3. And also part 2 of that question, Hugh Freeze's, as he put it, idiocy going deep verticals so much with drop back passing asked our offensive linemen to pass protect longer than was realistic. It's a lot, but if you can break that down, and then we got a lot to cover, but you're the man to do it.
Well, the question, it's a 2-part question, but I did see what the question is asking about as far as changing up the looks. They would get up and bluff a blitz, might bring the pressure or drop out. And, of course, the quarterback has to read all that at the line of scrimmage and on the way back in his drop back or in the shotgun. So some of the things he was seeing was telling them deep routes, throw here, and when it was maybe a blitz look. And then all of a sudden, ball comes out of your hand and there in a drop 5, you know, blowing people out, running with the verticals underneath and so forth. So I think that obviously Cal did a really good job with their scheme. I was shocked at how inefficient Auburn was, because the first game, I know they didn't play a really good opponent, but the one thing that seemed obvious to me was that the offense was more in sync with Hugh calling the plays and getting the offense that he likes, not having to constantly interject. He had the thing in his hands from the get-go. So I don't know. I was very surprised. But now Coach Wilcox, the head coach, he's a heck of a defensive coach himself, and I'm sure he had a lot to do with that plan. So I don't like talking about players, but I think it boiled down to the fact that Wilcox could not handle all the variation and made some terrible mistakes with the football. Now the turnovers,
Thorne,
you know, he was in a situation, they had no win situation. They knew he had to throw, and you know, he threw a couple of picks there late in the game, but the first ones were deadly, and they just were terrible decisions.
Yeah, and you know, the old saying out in the country, if a dog will bite, he'll do it when he's a pup. And you always wonder on a quarterback, how long do you wait? Peyton Thorne really struggled, and I heard Ben Watson on SEC Network make a comment Saturday night. When you have a -5 turnover ratio, you almost have a 0% chance of winning. And you know, as a coach, and John Heisman said it best, better to have died as a young boy than to fumble the football in a game.
That's right. In fact,
pretty hard.
If you're -3 in turnovers, I can't remember what the statistic is. You hardly ever win a game. So 5 is almost it's just unheard of. And as far as trying to win a ball game with 5 turnovers.
Yeah. Coach, let's get your thoughts, man. There were so many games over the weekend, really good ones. And I'm not even going to go to Notre Dame, Northern Illinois, 28.5-point favorite. Is this the world that we're going to have to get used to? Because you got guys coming in out of high school that are part of your culture, like, you know, Dabo's doing. And then you've got guys that are coming in as free agents that maybe not are vested in the program, who have not worked their ass off 3, 4, 5 years for that moment I'm old school. I'll admit it. I'm not ashamed at all of saying it. I grew up, Shook Jordan, Pat Dye, you know, Coach Bryant. That's what I think coaches are. And I only believe, you know, that the free market will work this out. But what do you think?
Well, personally, you know, we don't need to beat a dead horse. I don't like the NIL and I don't like the portal. I'm not saying I don't want any of it, but I don't like it under the present structure. I'd hate to be dealing with it, quite honestly. But the main thing on the Notre Dame game, I feel like Riley Leonard's had 2 average games in a row now. They overcame his average play against Texas A&M because their defense played so well. But they just weren't able to do it against Northern Illinois. And I hate to say, I did not see a single snap, trying to get to different games. But, I just feel like he's limited and possibly maybe trying to do too much with him. But it was a huge win for Northern Illinois. And it's not like it hadn't happened before the NIL or the portal. Yeah. These things have happened. But I think you're going to see more and more of it. And bringing in players and trying to make them fit into your program within 5 months and open up against decent opponents and so forth. I think you're going to see some of these upsets in the future.
Yeah, I do too. Coach, what else about South Carolina going up there and just laying the wood to Kentucky? That's 3 in a row for Shane Beamer. Like I said, my brother-in-law passed away recently. He was about 71, played football at Virginia Tech. And you talk about injuries, it was CTE, which led to dementia. So I'm with you about the safety. But I'm a big Hokie fan, as well as Auburn, where I graduated from. But love Shane Beamer because of Frank Beamer. I don't know if you know Coach Beamer, either one of the Coach Beamers, but I'm a huge fan of that family and Roanoke and Southwest Virginia.
Well, I am too. Frank Beamer coached me in college.
Okay, there you go. I did not know that.
Yeah, he was our secondary coach. I didn't play in the secondary. He was not my position coach, but he was our secondary coach. I played outside linebacker.
Yeah.
Coach Bobby Ross came down from Maryland and brought those guys, and they were all about 24 years old. And my last year I played, I was 23. So I see him now, and I think I look older than he does. But
you look like a movie star.
Yeah. Shane and I worked together at Mississippi State and actually coached the secondary together. And then we both ended up at South Carolina together. So, yeah, I know them, obviously know the family extremely well. Yeah. They're nice guys, but Cheryl, their mother, is a whole lot nicer than they are. And so is his sister. So,
yeah.
But they are a good family, but they're also really good coaches. It didn't shock me that they were able to go up there and do that. It sort of surprised me after their opening game, though. I thought, I don't know what was wrong with their opening game. Now, I don't know that those problems are fixed on offense. They still look a little bit out of sync on offense. I'm not sure they're still searching for what the quarterback's got some physical talents, but he's obviously young and inexperienced. And he's making some terrible decisions. He's able to overcome them sometime with his feet, but some of them are going to get him in trouble. What jumped out to me the most is their defensive front is really good, and especially rushing the passer. And Kentucky got down and had to throw the ball. Vanderbilt's not very mobile, and boy, they just smothered him. And I think they've got a couple of good young. The Stewart kid they got, 5-star kid. He has not taken long to get in the sync, get in the rhythm of things. He's a terror off of that edge. And so if the ball game gets to the point where they're rushing the passer 3 out of 4 plays, they're going to be hard to deal with this year. Won't shock me at all if South Carolina upsets LSU in Columbia.
Wow, and that is going to be an incredible atmosphere. You know that. What about Tennessee pushing through the Smoky Mountains? The Orange Army goes over there 51-10. And I like Dave Doran at NC State. I think they're picked pretty high in that conference. But we hear that term statement game used all the time. But Tennessee definitely played a full 60 in that game in Charlotte.
Yeah, NC State, I think, still going to be a good football team this year. There was an obvious difference in the speed out in the space. And so NC State could never turn it into the kind of game they would have had a chance, and that was play it in the box type game. I tell you, Tennessee, man, if I'm in that conference, they worried me because I think last year he didn't really have a quarterback that could push the ball vertical without being inconsistent and maybe getting him in trouble. And this year he's got one. And when that offensive system that Heupel runs, when you can throw verticals, everything else explodes. The running game gets impossible to stop. Yeah. And it's just, I tell you, they're going to light a bunch of people up, even in the SEC.
Yeah. And one dear to Brendan's heart, I know Florida was playing Samford, but you can always learn as a coach. And this is why you're so good on this show. And cannot thank you enough for taking time to share with us. We love it. My viewers love it. I said, the one thing about Coach Johnson is he's got that New York accent. I love people always trust me. Having to talk to people in New York and Boston for work over the years, I just always tell them about people in the South. We're the people in the movie Braveheart on the other side of the field with the blue face paint. That's how we love football so much. So, but talk about if you got a chance to see DJ Lagway, the freshman quarterback from Texas, maybe one or two top players in the country, came in Saturday. And I know it was Samford again, but what do you draw from what you saw?
I hate to say I didn't get to see much of that either, but obviously he kind of gave him a shot in the arm, and maybe it's a change they needed. I think that they still got a lot of issues, and I don't know that Samford's good enough to expose them, but no doubt that was a good change. And apparently it was, the right thing to do with locker room and everything else. They just seemed like they played more together.
Yeah, yeah. Other games that you saw in a few minutes, I know we're running a little bit behind. Ron Higgins, Shreveport Bossier Journal, covers LSU. It's going to be on with us here in a minute. And just your thoughts and what you saw that maybe as fans we don't see, but coaches and surgeons do see.
Well, some of the teams that had rough starts, first game, played good opponents, and then the second game they weren't playing quite as good opponents. And I think you call them a bounce back game or a get right game or whatever, but sometimes it doesn't matter if you got a lesser opponent. You're just pleased with the way the team came back together and improved. Clemson's a good example. They got just absolutely waylaid. Then they came back, and Appalachian is a good football program.
They are.
I'm not sure they got one of their better teams this year. We'll have to see. But the change in the opposition certainly helped Clemson. But at the same time, they did some things extremely well that they didn't do against Georgia. And so they exploded on them and just looked like a team that could run the table. So we don't know who Clemson is yet either. We'll find out when they start playing good competition week in and week out. But a lot of those teams, LSU had one of those, and then a couple of others. Now, the one that kind of surprised me was Oklahoma State and Arkansas.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed Arkansas couldn't finish that one off. Not because they're a better team than Oklahoma State, but that day they were a better team for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And they did everything they could to beat themselves, with just muff punts and everything else. And I hate that they lost that game. because that would have been a huge win for Sam against a really good opponent.
Well, the bottom line is Arkansas with Bobby Petrino, they had like 648 yards of offense. That was significant. But then I look also Oklahoma. Your thoughts, Willie Fritz, man. I've been following that guy for a while. He's one of my favorites because he's just, the coaching profession. There's a bond that y'all have because of what you go through. But I'm a big fan of his, and you knew Houston would make them play in 16-12, and I think Oklahoma had 256 yards of total offense. That's a better test than people thought, probably.
Yeah, they may have some problems, and Houston hadn't been good on defense for 25 years. And the first time I really started noticing Coach Fritz was when he was at Georgia Southern, came out of Texas and took that program for a couple of years. But he has done a great job everywhere he's been. I mean, Tulane, when he was there, was they were a legit program.
Yes.
And not just all this air raid type stuff or anything else. They played good football, and defensively they got after Oklahoma. I'm not sure Oklahoma's as good as everybody thought. We'll just have to see. But I think, like you said, you got to give a lot of credit to Willie Fritz. I think a lot of what happened in that ball game was because of the way he coaches and his football teams and the way they play.
Yeah, it really is, Coach. And I know you got a busy morning, and we appreciate you so much staying behind to join us. One more question I got to ask you about Missouri. One of our sponsors, Matt Price, the Vitamin Shop. You say, hey, Matt. He goes, M-I-Z. Proud Mizzou grad, loves that program. And I know they were playing Buffalo over the weekend. I keep having to qualify these statements, but Brady Cook, Luther Burden III, what they call, in the words of Eli Drinkwitz, the death row defense. How good is this Missouri team, in your opinion, based on the first two games they've played?
I think they're really good. And the reason I think they got some of the playmakers back on offense. We all thought they'd still put up some points. They were a little concerned about losing the good little running back that walked into their program. But
Cody Schrader.
But they've replaced him. Burton didn't even have impressive stats in this last game, and they still won handily. But they have had two opponents that were not real good, not real good football teams. Now, Boston College is not some powerhouse, with Notre Dame history or anything.
Yeah.
But Billy O'Brien's got Boston College playing really good football. They're physical. They're not going to beat themselves. And I think we'll find out a little bit more about Missouri. They're still at home, and that's going to be a huge advantage for them. How about Bill O'Brien having to go to Florida State and turn around having to go down to Missouri for his first two ball games?
Yeah.
But I think he's doing a heck of a job up there, and we're going to know a lot more about Missouri after this weekend.
Yeah, I will. Coach, one last thing before you go. What do you tell fans of schools that played a weak opponent in the first game, played a solid opponent in the second game, or vice versa after the second game? Because there's a long way to go, but as a coach, what would you be telling your players?
Well, that old saying, the improvement between your first and second game is so critical, or tells you everything. But it is a lot depending upon who you're playing. And it doesn't mean that you didn't execute properly and you didn't play well. But a lot of times quarterbacks can sit back there more comfortably when they don't have great athletes pressure. Yep. And so it gives you a little bit of a false impression. But I think until you get about mid-season, you really don't know your football team that well yourself. And so fans, I just say take a break and just – let's see what happens here after about 5 weeks. You'll know a little bit more about your football team. So you can't lose the ones like Notre Dame. You can't lose the ones that you're supposed to win. Now, you can play badly and you can get beat by a really good football team, and you can learn and come back off of that. But boy, would you lose to a team that you're 20 points better or worse.
Yeah.
It just makes you scratch your head. You don't know whether it's technical or if it's mental or what's going on, so I think those are the ones I'd be worried about.
Yeah. Coach, let's do it again next Monday. Love the breakdown and appreciate it. How do people follow you and keep up with you? Because you put out a lot of really good content.
Well, enjoyed it, Rob, and look forward to doing it next week.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much. That is Coach Ellis Johnson, man, with the Monday morning breakdown. Let's bring in Ron Higgins. Shreveport Bossier Journal, and every time Ron's on, everybody in Memphis goes, man, we miss that guy. We miss sports writers. We also miss people that aren't afraid to speak their opinion. And Ron and I are old enough to remember a great character on the Johnny Carson show, one of my favorites, Floyd R. Turbo American. I used to love that guy. Ron, I get so many people that go, I love that guy, Ron Higgins. He's a great writer, Hall of Fame writer, but you were brought up the right way. SID. I don't call them media relations directors. Hall of Fame writer Ron Higgins, welcome. Appreciate your patience. We had a little technical snafu at the beginning that I had to correct. Thanks to Brendan, as incredible producer. But your takeaway from the weekend, what you saw, and what people need to be talking about that they may not even know about.
Go Northern Illinois. Yes.
Yes.
Hey, even despite the referee screwing them on the spot, okay, the guy gets a first down by almost a yard and a half. They go to the replay and they're I mean, thank God. I mean, I'm so glad they won. There's teams that play really hard and deserve to win and lose, and sometimes you take that away and you say, okay, we played like Houston. Houston lost that game, but they go in that game and say, we lost, but we feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
And then there's teams that win games, and you go, like LSU this weekend. Nicholls State had a running back who lined up in a wildcat formation and ran for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. On his 17th carry of the game, he ran 65 yards right down the middle of LSU's defense. And you're going, okay, so LSU paid this new defensive staff what? How much in contract? $16.11 million for the length of their contracts?
Yeah.
There's still some screw-ups there. I know it's game 2. I realize that. Offense is Nussmeier's carrying their offense. They can't run the ball worth a damn. I mean, not a damn. Let's see here. 29 carries for 64 yards against a 1AA team. Yeah. And your offensive line outweighs their defensive line 65 by an average of 65 pounds per man, and you can't run the damn ball.
Yeah.
Okay. So LSU's got some work to do. What Ellis said about an upset, I don't know if it's going to be an upset. They don't. I mean, the strength of I tell you what, South Carolina's pass rush plays into LSU's strength, which is LSU pass protects great. They just can't block worth a damn on runs.
Yeah.
Defensively, they are better, but still, they gave up too much. I mean, when you got if you're playing a 1AA team, I mean, especially in state, I mean, and no disrespect to Nicholls State, you should pound them from the jump. You should be pounding. That didn't happen. This team's still trying to work out stuff. Now, it's got a few more games to work out stuff before it gets into the heart of conference play. But this isn't easy. Last week LSU fans were saying, "Oh, South Carolina, that's a W." They're not saying that now. They're not saying that now.
No,
that's going to be a great game. But there were again some teams this weekend. All their fans probably questioned. Alabama fans questioned why we can't put this team away.
Yeah. Let me ask you this about that. 14-13, beginning of the fourth quarter. Alabama 14, USF 13. Alex Golesh came from Tennessee as an offensive coordinator. He's building he's trying to build a good program down there. But wow, Alabama wins at 42-16. What a fourth quarter. And Ryan Williams out of Saraland is a rock star.
Yeah, did you see his coach's USF's press conference with Coach? He was just pretty crushed. He's like, "Well, we're going to the fourth quarter. We had him." He's like, I told my team that they just couldn't finish. They had him on the ropes. Look, another Florida team up and coming. Just another ho-hum USF. Right across from UCF, right down the street from Gainesville, right on the corner from Tallahassee, and above Miami.
Again, this weekend, I think my takeaway is that my SEC dark horse Tennessee just
Wow.
crushing people and crushed a pretty good, a pretty decent team
Yes.
on a Memphis Lightning State. So Tennessee is one to watch. I mean, we know Georgia. We know about them. We know about Texas. Went in and played Michigan really well. Tennessee's one to watch here, man. I mean, they played well early. There's been no let up. I know for a while that game was close, but they just kind of eventually took care of business. I mean, good teams wear people out eventually. And Alabama's depth probably won that game. Like the Alabama's depth won a lot of games in this lifetime. But all in all, I mean, the teams I were impressed with: Tennessee, South Carolina. I was impressed with Arkansas. I know they folded. I get
I
that.
agree.
But the way they were able just to get points at will. I mean, I know the mullet man never had much of a defense. I get that, but I understand that.
Do you know the mullet man? The mullet.
They got a quarterback. They got a quarterback who's an upgrade from KJ Jefferson. Okay, he is an upgrade.
Yeah.
This guy can play, and they got a lot of points. And they weren't able to hold them off. But still, if I'm an Arkansas fan, I'm still kind of encouraged that I feel like I have a quarterback who's a playmaker now. I have an offense that can score points. And so one side of the ball is kind of solved somewhat. Apparently, we'll see how it plays out. But to do that, that was impressive. I know they got beaten, and I get that. But still, you had to feel pretty good to going to on the road, somebody else's house, and you got a big lead, and you can't hold on to it, but you built that big lead, and you weren't intimidated by playing there. So kudos to Arkansas, even though they lost.
I'm with you because being here in Memphis, got a lot of Hog friends. 648 yards of offense on the road against. I love the mullet man. That place was packed. T-Boone Pickens Stadium, whatever they call it. Wow, that was a cool atmosphere. What in the fourth quarter? I think Arkansas just needs to get more used to winning and being. I think they were maybe even surprised. Their fans were surprised that they played that. Ron, I think they're going to be a pain in the ass for a lot of teams this year. It's the Petrino effect. You've been around Bobby Petrino. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, if he finds a quarterback he likes and fits what he does, they're going to get a lot of yards. And apparently, he's found that guy.
Yeah.
So they're going to score points. We have to solve their defense some, obviously. But again, that was another game that your team lost, but you have to feel good.
Yeah.
What you saw, because you probably didn't expect that. You really didn't. Good for them. It makes this league more competitive. So I mean, again, Florida. I mean, I didn't follow closely, Brendan, what they did. I know they won. I didn't follow how they looked closely, but you can probably update me on that. I mean, I know they were superior over an opponent, but were there some positives that you felt better about this team, or was it just like
Look, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. I watched Florida do this against Tennessee last year and then not show up in the second half. I think obviously the bright shining light of the whole thing is DJ Lagway. Yeah. He made all the difference, and I think that's what everyone's excited about. I think that's what you got to be excited about. Of course, we've seen some of this story before with AR and Billy Napier. Look, you got to beat somebody real. I think they did what they were supposed to do. I think that they played well enough to be, impressive. I think Lagway was obviously impressive with the most throwing yards in freshman UF quarterback history. Total yards, I guess it was, or whatever. I think that obviously fits the style of offense that they want to run, especially with that offensive line. I think everything clicks when you got a real quarterback. I think now they got a real quarterback controversy now because he's going to be loyal to Graham Mertz, who's going to start, but I think that's probably smart because you just don't want to run Lagway out there and make him your starter. Mertz is going to be sort of ground up beef, I think, for the year. He's going to take some shots with that offensive line, not really blocking for him. But you saw the difference in, Lagway never got sacked.
Yeah.
He never went down, and he was really elusive back there. And I think he's that kind of playmaker. And like what Billy Napier said post press conference was we thought he played like we thought he would play. He is who we thought he was. Best player in the year, Gatorade All-American, all of that stuff. So I think no one's super surprised. You're supposed to win that game. And now you got a real test this week, and now you're going to see this was your softball of your schedule. Now you're done. Now you go back into the gauntlet.
Yeah, yeah.
It sounds real basic and real stupid when you say this, but if you don't have a quarterback that feels gives you a chance, you're not going to win. You just don't. I mean, 2020 LSU, the year after the COVID year, they went through like 3 or 4 quarterbacks, and they couldn't find anybody they want. And if you don't have a quarterback that you feel like it fits you or it works, it just permeates throughout the whole team. And players will never say it. Defensive players will never point the finger at the offense publicly, but they're thinking, Christ, please,
hold the ball.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like last year with LSU's offense, the offensive guys would never say it. They were like, but probably they're gonna be thinking, good God, we're scoring 40 points and we're losing. Really?
Yeah. Correct.
But all things said, I think so far in this league, everything's kind of, you're 2 weeks into it, you really can't tell a lot. Because some teams have played somebody, some teams have not. It's been a mixed bag.
Mm-hmm.
I think what Ellis said was correct. He said like the 5th or 6th game. I might go a little bit earlier. I might go 4th game, 3rd or 4th game when you start to play somebody in your league who's pretty decent. That's when you kind of know. But every Georgia's got to feel good about itself. Texas has got to feel good about itself, for sure. Tennessee's got to feel. Those are the 3 best teams. I think Tennessee's better than Alabama. I really do at this point. But again, Alabama's got a new coach, and no matter what happens when you get a new coach, is always an adjustment. Especially that coach who's never been in this league before. So there's always an adjustment. So we'll see how it plays out for Alabama.
Yeah. What do you, Ron? I'm going to get your thoughts. They've got to go up to the peninsula and play Wisconsin. And Wisconsin always will play a full 60 minutes.
Yeah.
That's just what I've seen ever since Barry Alvarez came there in the early mid 90s. That is not in Green Bay. That is on their campus. And you've been to a lot of games around the country. Don't know if you've been to the peninsula, but that'll be a good test. I think Alabama's going to win, but they better play well or they could be in trouble.
Yeah, Wisconsin's not explosive offensively. They're not. They kind of grounded out. They've kind of always have. LSU beat them in a bowl game last year.
Yeah,
with Nussmeier as quarterback. It's rare when Alabama goes and plays a Power 5 school on the road. It didn't happen that much. And that's always a big deal when they come to town. You come to your city if you're not conferencing. So that'll be a huge event up there, and Alabama better come to play. But finally this weekend, coming up, we're getting some more conference games. We got Tennessee playing in Florida. LSU playing in South Carolina. You're finally starting to get a taste here. Kentucky, Georgia, Kentucky. So you're starting to get a little bit of a taste going in now. What's going to happen? So it'll be good. It's good to kind of, start to play a little more conference games. By the next few weeks, we'll have to play all conference games. But again, I don't know how much we learned this past weekend. We still learned some teams need to fix some stuff, like LSU and their their line play basically on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
But it didn't help. LSU lost its best defensive lineman for the year, Jacob Guillory, tore an ACL in that game. I'm sorry, he Achilles. He tore an Achilles like I did one time. So, yeah, he tore an Achilles.
Horrible injury.
It's no fun, really. I can tell you it's no fun to tear Achilles. And
Brian Kelly was awesome when he's screaming at the place kicker.
Yeah, he was. This started like in the last minute. Okay, Nussmeier goes down. He's cramping up, so his hamstrings are cramping. So the trainers are trying to work on him on the sideline. They put the backup in. He completes a 12-yard pass, and there's like a timeout or some sort of stoppage in play. So Kelly goes over to the trainers, and they're rubbing him Nussmeier's leg down like he's some kind of racehorse, and it's not working out. And Kelly's just getting angry at the trainers, like, "Well, can't you get him back in the game? Can't you get him back in the game?" And they can't get him back in the game. So finally, they put the place kicker in there, and then he misses a field goal. And then there's some sort of like a penalty or something screw up with the clock or something. So he re-kicks it again, and he gets it blocked. And Kelly's just chews his ear all the way to the dressing room. And so, LSU fans are thinking, well, hey, he's going to lay down the fire and brimstone at halftime. They're going to come out in the second half, and they're going to be whipping tail. And the third snap of the second half, the guy goes 67 yards down the middle, a Wildcat snap to this guy who's been running the Wildcat all the first half.
Yeah.
Can't you figure out this guy's back there? He's not going to throw the ball. The only time he throws the ball is probably lifts his arm and put deodorant under it. He's not going to lift his arm to throw the ball.
Yeah. Okay?
Yeah. And LSU did that. And that pulled him within 2 points at 23-21. LSU shut him out the rest of the way.
Yeah. Well,
but still, I mean, look, LSU fans are some of them like Kelly, some of them don't. The ones that like Kelly, the ones that like him when he gets mad, and
that's
why that's why they loved Nick. Okay, and I think most fans, but I know LSU fans are very passionate. When a guy makes a mistake, he wants to make sure there's accountability for it, and that's why they love Nick, because you made a mistake with Nick, you were going to come off the field and get an earful, and LSU fans were always like, well, yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, that's why we like Nick. Some coaches coach differently. Some are, they're more calm and they don't get upset. But it's a violent, passionate game. Sometimes you got to go off like that.
Yeah.
And so now, again, that game was. Fans took that away. We won a game. We still got problems.
Yeah.
Again, LSU gets in the conference play at least for one game this weekend before they play UCLA in South Alabama.
Yeah.
At home, and then there's a break and they play Ole Miss at home. So they got to get some stuff straight. But a lot of teams do. It's still early. The Florida quarterback situation is interesting. Obviously.
Well, I was going to ask you real quick because you got, this Lane Kiffin, and we'll bring in Ken Capps here from Texas. Hey, Ken, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Ken's not happy this morning, is he?
Yeah. I want to ask you. I can ask for everyone else. I'm not trying to start anything, but I just read this morning about Lane Kiffin when he was upset about fans in Oxford leaving second quarter. Did you see his quotes or his tweets about that?
Ron, you're familiar. I mean, they go back to the Grove, but they used to stay in the Grove and not go to the games. Ron, I've been to the Grove many times, like you have.
All I can tell with Lane is shut up and coach. I mean, don't worry about fans staying or going. If you're beating the crap out of a team, do you think your fans want to stay? I mean, it's up. They pay the money. They can do what they want. It's like Saban always said. Saban goes, these fans are leaving. They should stay in the fourth quarter. Well, not necessarily. That's the fan's choice. Okay. If they're in your stadium cheering, they're cheering, and if they feel the game is won, they're going to leave. It's their option. Okay. Yeah. You don't control the friggin' fans. I mean, some of these coaches act like they're like emperors of nations. Christ. I mean, really. Just coach your damn football team, okay? Don't tell the fans what to do. Just shut up. Oh. I like Lane, but Lane must have got that from Nick, who used to say, our fans are leaving. They should stay until the hell with that. They can leave when they want to leave.
Oh, he's just trying to start that narrative so he can take the Florida job, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just it's stuff like that. It's like, don't tell fans what to do, okay? I mean, look, fans are paying a ton of money to watch your team.
Yeah,
ticket prices have gone up out of the roof. I mean, you're paying a ton of money just for the right to buy a season ticket before you buy it.
So there you go.
So if they want to friggin' leave, okay, they can leave. I mean, the amount of money a fan invests in going to a game.
Yep.
If you have a tailgate, too, throw in all the cost of food, the time you get there. I mean, there's LSU fans that get there at 7 in the morning for a night game and stay until, leave at 11 o'clock at night. And if they want to leave, are a little bit fine. But
Yeah, no, Ron, I always stay until the bitter end, no matter what. I'm just a hardhead, but you're right. It's free market, man. And I love these opinions. That's why I love getting the writers together. Again, you're the best guest because you think about what you're saying because you've written it. Can never get away from the great writers. That's what this show's built on. Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, on here with Ron Higgins. And I know, Ken, you're a journalist. I mean, I do see Hookem behind you, not Bevo, but Hookem is what I call him. How about that win? And Ron, Friday, when we were talking about Texas going to the Big House, I said, you remember that game in, I think, 1993 maybe, or in the early 90s when Florida State went to the Big House and won like 52-21 or something like that? I felt Texas would cover and win big, but 31-12, Ken, did you see that coming?
I predicted on Friday that it was either going to be a very tight game or a Texas blowout, and so I got half of it right. But back to the great journalist for a minute. I sent you guys the headline. Somebody from USA Today wrote the headline right after the game. And I've got it right here. Michigan crushes Texas in Ann Arbor. I don't know if Brendan has that headline up, but I started getting – people started sending me this headline after the game on Saturday saying, what happened? And that was on front page usatoday.com. Now, Ron, I'm sure – well, you're still in your day, but back in my day when I was working at, in journalism every day for a newspaper or a TV station, if I wrote something like that, I'd get my butt fired the next.
Well, that's Gannett for you. And let me explain how Gannett works, okay? Because I work for Gannett. I know this is how they screw up. They have a centralized desk system.
Wow.
Like regions away from wherever you're covering a game. When I worked in Jackson, Mississippi for 90 days, my 90-day fiancé period, I called it. I come in one morning after a weekend game, and I'm getting these calls. My this filled up, and like, what's wrong with you people? I mean, don't you? I mean, how insulting to the Southern Miss can you be? I'm like, what the hell happened here? So I go pick up our paper because our paper is edited in Arizona, okay? And it says SMU falls to so like SMU. What? And I go to my editor paper and said, "Can you tell me what the hell happened here?" Well, they made a mistake in Arizona. They thought Southern Mississippi was SMU, not University of Southern Mississippi.
Good grief!
And so
anyway, but
that's what happens. I mean,
I know. I'm just, you just see it so often in the media these days that they're just so flagrantly wrong, constantly, never make a correction, never make an apology. And again, I told this to Ron back when he was back in the Metroplex here for SEC Media Days. But when I went to Northwestern to the Medill School of Journalism, we had something called the Medill F. And what that meant was you could have been Billy Shakespeare and wrote the most incredible story in the world. But if you had a typographical error, a factual error, any kind of error in the story, you got an F. And so once you become that that becomes so ingrained in you, Ron.
Yeah.
I mean, I never want to make a mistake. And, but gosh, when it says Michigan crushes Texas in Ann Arbor, I was like, where was this guy? But you're right. It's something, it's just some, either computer program or somebody not watching the train or something. But man,
it wasn't real. It was somebody made it up and they passed it around. I just looked it up. It was a meme someone just made up and shared, which is happening all the time, by the way.
Well, I guarantee you, mine was no meme. Mine was real. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yours, you're right.
But the first thing I thought of, guys, Dewey beats Truman. Dewey beats Truman.
Yeah. Well, guys, I remember my freshman year at Auburn. I was a journalism major before I switched to speech communication, mass communication. I had an instructor at Auburn named Jack Sims. And Jack Sims was one of the top AP, UPI guys in the country. If you misspelled a word, you failed. You failed.
Exactly.
You got one chance. And David Housel let me in high school and Buddy Davidson work up in that press box. And I'm going to tell you something. I love David Housel. But, man, he reduced you to tears if you cheered in the press box.
Absolutely.
If you were not courteous to our visitors, you are representing it. There's a professional code. And I think about having the two of y'all on here and Brendan and his dad, Buddy. And it's so important, to get it right. Sometimes you have to spend a long time to do something, but you got to do it right. There's no second chances. Did you put the rebar on the 70th floor of that 100-story building? Dad, being an architect, has said you don't get any second chances with reinforced concrete. You got to get it right. But Ron, what are we going to do with these young kids coming up if they don't have mentors like all of y'all? What are they going to think is okay?
Well, they think it's okay because they're being taught that. Because what they're being taught basically is social media journalism.
Yeah.
That's what they're being taught. They're not being taught how to write. They're being taught how to tweet. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what they're being. And God help them. I'll pick up the LSU student newspaper, the Reveille, and I'll pick it up like last year sometime, and they had 3 stories on a game that happened. There was no score of the game in the story.
Wow!
Wow!
I'm like, how does this happen?
But you know what, guys? Here's what I was thinking. I'm sorry. I was sorry to get off on that headline, but it was just so infuriating to me from a journalistic standpoint, and also comical because I started getting it from different people that I wouldn't expect to get it from. Like, are you believing this? But look at it this way: if you're waking up in Austin, Texas this morning, you've moved up to number 2 in the ratings. You made a statement game. Quinn Ewers totally controlled the game, put himself in the Heisman race. And if you're waking up in Ann Arbor this morning, you've had your 23-game winning streak at the Big House smashed. You've had your 16-game winning streak last couple of seasons smashed. They hadn't lost a game since TCU a couple of years ago. And, the defense that Michigan put on the field on Saturday was not shabby. And boy, they Texas just came out and just manhandled them. And what I thought was interesting though was the first drive. Because Sark had talked about it all week that Texas has to go up there and have poise. It was a maze out. There were 110,000 people up there. They gave Texas 4,000 tickets up in the nosebleed section. It was just one of those things. It was all Michigan all the time. Texas takes the ball first, and they're marching down the field. But what do? They get 3 penalties in the first drive as they're marching down the field, and then Bert Auburn, who's an incredible kicker, misses a chip shot field goal. And, I think Texas fans started thinking, oh, boy, here we go. This is going to be one of those games. But then the Texas defense, and that to me, Ron and Brendan, that to me has been the difference so far this year is the Texas defense. And, and you lost Tyrone Sweat and Byron Murphy to the NFL, and boy, they're just playing just lights out this year already. And man, the Texas defense is playing with so much passion and so much speed, and especially the secondary, which last year got scorched over and over and over. You think, how did Texas win 11 games when their secondary got scorched? Well, they lost the 2 games to Oklahoma and Washington because their secondary got scorched. So the fact that they were able to play such a great defense against Michigan with so much speed, I think is what made the game. And if you look at Texas's schedule, they have 3 very winnable games before they show up here in the Metroplex at the Cotton Bowl versus OU on October the 12th. So, it's going to be, and then after what happens after the next week, it's Texas and Georgia in Austin, Texas. So those 2 games right there are gonna say a lot about Texas's season. So it's a very interesting Monday morning in Austin and Ann Arbor.
Yeah, and this panel here, Olin Buchanan's going to join us in a minute from TexAgs.com. He just finished his morning show he does from 8 to 9. This is look, Bo Davis is gone. Ron, he's at LSU now, coaching the defensive line where Bo played, and for Texas to still be playing that well. We now have the University of Saban at Athens, the University of Saban at Oxford, and the University of Saban at Austin. Ron Higgins, you think about, I don't know how good Michigan is. Again, Sharon Moore filled in some games last year when Jim Harbaugh was unable to coach because he was on a special assignment. But how Texas is off to a great start. A&M, in that first game against Notre Dame, it was a back and forth affair. It's still early, but is Texas? We're going to hear Texas is back and all like that. But that's a big right now. That's kind of the bell cow. Them in Georgia for the SEC, Alabama's. Hey, it's too early to make any kind of statement, isn't it?
Well, it's obvious that Michigan lost a lot in the scouting department.
Yeah. You are correct, sir.
Hey, never say Texas is back. Texas fans hate it when you say Texas is back. That's like the kiss of death. That's the kiss of death. Okay, never. Yeah. When people say that, they just do this because they don't want to hear it. Because every time a writer or somebody says that, or when Sam Ellinger said that when Texas beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl a few years ago, good things did not happen. And so Texas is back is kind of like saying a curse word or something like that in Austin. But you have to give it to Texas. Ewers just really stepped up in that game. And like I said, if you're going to be a Heisman candidate, because all Texas fans have heard about all year is Carson Beck and Dylan Gabriel and even some other people. And it's like, well, where is Ewers in all this? Well, he's had his statement game. And with just one other thing I wanted to mention too about the actual game. Texas has already lost 2 running backs for the year. Jaden Blue is the starting quarterback. The starting running back. He gets hurt in the Michigan game. So he comes out. God. They have to tape his foot. Don't know if he's coming back. There's 3 other guys behind him. They step up, score touchdowns, and then Blue comes back with his foot all wrapped up like looks like he's got a cast on his foot, and scores a touchdown pass from Ewers. And so that's what really impressed me is just the grit, because a lot of times, and again, following Texas for, decades, I've not seen this kind of true grit coming from Texas day in and day out. And of course, but just like we always say here in the great state of Texas, no matter what happens, no matter what conference you're in, no matter what year it is, no matter who's ranked where, it all comes down to that second Saturday in October, Texas versus OU.
Yeah. Yeah. Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. Jump in here. We got Ron Higgins, Ken Capps. Got the win Saturday. Now the Aggies go on the road to play Florida. DJ Lagway was the starter Saturday. But what are you looking for in this matchup?
Well, first of all, I think I hear there might be some bad weather, it's probably unfair, but Connor Wigman does not have a history of playing well in bad weather. He had a miserable game against UMass of all teams in bad weather, but everybody did, so maybe it's not on him. I think A&M should be able to run the football. I think they should be able to score, because who hasn't scored on and who hasn't moved the football on Florida's defense over the last? I think until last week, their opponents had at least 460 total yards in 6 of the last 7 games. And the one that didn't was Florida State with a backup quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So, but we don't know what we have with A&M. They look pretty good against, at least defensively, against Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois, and then they looked really good last week, but it was against McNeese. What is that? What even McNephew? It was McNeese. So what does that tell you? A&M, and here's the deal. Here's what A&M really has to prove. A&M has to prove that they can win an SEC game on the road. The Aggies haven't won a conference road game, a true conference road game, since beating Missouri on October 16th, 2021.
Wow.
That's a lot of road losses.
Wow. I did not. And it's going to be, a crazy atmosphere anytime you play at the Swamp. But Olin, running backs, Texas now, 3 of them hurt. I can't remember so many key players on so many teams going down with these kinds of injuries. I don't know what it is.
Well, I can, because I saw A&M get down to their 4th-string quarterback last year.
Yeah.
We're used to seeing guys get hurt. That's unfortunate. You don't want anybody to get hurt. I see LSU is losing a guy for the 2nd week in a row. We all know it's all part of the game, but sometimes you just think you feel like you're snake bitten. He said, I don't want to be snake bit, because that's going to keep somebody out of a game too. Why got bit by a snake? Yeah.
Ron, you hear that take on that. And like I said, LSU, John Emery, who's a 60-year player. Mm-hmm. I just feel bad for anybody that works that hard, stays at the same school for that long, has an injury. But, your thoughts when you look at this matchup, again, there's the competition 1 through 16 in the SEC just got ratcheted up with Texas and OU coming in the league. But for TV and entertainment purposes, this has got to be great for the bottom line.
No, it is. I mean, looking ahead, not this week, but next week, you have Tennessee at Oklahoma. That's a lot of fun there. I mean, really, that's the first really great big clash of Titans, so to speak, as Tennessee's playing so well. It kind of goes from there. The best thing I can say about Texas is not to say that they're back. I'm going to say that Texas looks like an SEC team, and that's really a compliment.
Yeah,
because and credit Sark, because his recruiting, after his first year there and just got there, but the last 3 years have been like top 5, top 6, and he understands what it takes to build an SEC team, the type of players you need, and they look like an SEC team, but they look like they belong. No doubt about it, and credit him. So, I know a kid was saying about the quarterback one time said that they were back and then they just went down the drain. But this is legit. I mean, he's built a solid program with really SEC quality recruits, and that's why they're gonna be in the playoff. I think they have enough depth to get to the playoff. He was talking about the running backs. You just keep putting people in. And that's what SEC teams do. You get a guy hurt, you just go get another guy, put him in, and he plays just as well. I think Texas is like that. And credit Sark. I mean, he's done a really good job recruiting. He's built this thing. And you got to go through growing play like last year, getting that close in a playoff. Mm-hmm. And you look your the slight deficiencies you had, and you improve them. But again, year to year, he's made it better. And in this league, you try to get pretty good by year 3 or year 4. You want to be really good, and so he's done that. Credit him, doing a good job.
Yeah, Olin, tell us about Mike Elko. Just watching him on stage, Ken and Ron, we were all at Media Days in Dallas, which that was the downtown Omni was just that was incredible. I thought last year in Nashville was incredible. What a venue. But Mike Elko seems like a CFO, of a hedge fund. He's a very smart guy, but again, you get to talk to him. You have one of the great offices in the world right there by the practice fields and all, but he's been at A&M before. And what blows my mind is all these guys that have left. You look around the SEC at the number just of defensive linemen that left A&M. Isaiah Rakes at Auburn, Walter Nolan at Ole Miss. I think Alabama's got a guy that's going to play a lot, and they're still very talented.
Well, talent's never been the issue at A&M. I mean, every coach in the SEC would tell you, hey, you look at their schedule. Their roster is as good as just about anybody's.
It is.
So, you lose some guys, and quite frankly, there might have been one or two of those guys they were glad that left. They still have. I mean, they still have guys on the team that everybody would want, and then they did a good job in the transfer portal, bringing in some other guys like that. So, is Mike a smart guy? Absolutely. Ivy League guy and all those things. And but here's what Mike does: is Mike's just trying to be a football coach and nothing else. So far he's been real honest. They beat McNeese. He says, really don't know what we can judge off that. The previous coach, they slopped around and barely beat UMass, and he called it a great win. So I just think that Mike is a guy that's an honest guy. He's not trying to BS anybody. He understands the job that he faces, and as much as anything, they had to make their players better physically. You always hear the change the culture talk. Well, he's having changed some mindsets of players, and I don't know if he's done it yet. Didn't seem to, because they had a chance to beat Notre Dame and let it get away, just like all the chances they had last year that they let get away. So, but I do think that you can have a little more confidence in him, because he seems to have more confidence in his staff. He brings in how's this for a crazy idea? And I might have gone on this rant last week. He brings in an offensive coordinator and says, "Run the offense." Not just sit there and be a hood ornament. Run the offense. And by the way, hood ornament in Stillwater last week. So I think there's a lot of things about Mike that makes you optimistic, but beating, McNeese, even if you dominate them, so what? You're supposed to. By the way, let me throw in my 2 cents on what y'all were talking about before. Texas historically, and I know Ken's going to be able to back me up on this, Texas will go out and they'll play that big game and look good in it. The question for Texas is, what are you going to do after that? Because, you would see them win that game against Georgia and come back flat the next year, or beat Notre Dame that year when they're saying Texas is back and go 4-8, or almost beat LSU in one of the best LSU team, maybe the best offense in college football ever, and just underperformed the rest of the season. In fact, last year have a big win at Alabama, and then squeak by some teams that you would think they would blow out. So I think that's the big question for Texas. What are you going to do now?
Yeah, I mean, and Ken, what he just said, and Ron, it's hard. I think. What I think is going to be a pivotal moment in Texas football history, and an example of what Ron just alluded to with the SEC depth, is Texas playing in the Red River Shootout there. And then, the next week they'll play, I'm looking on here on the schedule.
Georgia.
They will go home and play Georgia. Yeah, that's going to be like in the past.
They play Georgia.
Yeah, didn't historically OU and Texas play, and then the next week Texas would play Arkansas, home or away, but now they got to go home and play Georgia. I think somebody want to take a grab at that, that's a great. Olin worked, I know, 12 years at the Austin American Statesman.
Back
with
back in the old days.
The oldest free agent, Ken. I'm thinking about it. Kirk Bowles, who 51 years at the Statesman, is now at the Houston Chronicle. But jump at that, Ken. That's a great take. Ken, are you there? Ken may be frozen. But Ron, you want to take a stab at that? I mean, along what Olin did, it's logical.
First of all, let me say this. Going back to hedge fund, that's a really good name for an NIL collective for Georgia. Really, it is. Okay. And I thought about that. I thought that the CEO of a hedge fund, that was something.
Well, Kirk and Olin.
Keep going, Ron. I think Ken froze again.
I think CEO of a hedge fund is something you would never associate describing Ed Orgeron. Okay. So I'm glad you. Yeah.
Yes.
But I think Olin makes a good point about Texas would play really well and then drop off. But I think maybe this team might be a little bit different because I really believe it's they got a better coach. He's recruited better depth, and I think they'll probably get a more consistent effort week to week. I mean, obviously this week, they play UTSA, and then it's like their hyphen tour here. Then they got UL-Monroe, the fighting hyphens of UL Monroe.
Yeah.
They got a stretch here like they can really not play great and develop stuff and still win before they get to that 2-game Oklahoma-Georgia killer stretch. So I just think Texas is better. I think that their depth is better, and I think they're better coached. But this will all play out. We'll see. I mean, that's a hell of a daily double, Oklahoma and Georgia back to back. That really is.
Yeah.
Olin, but I want to go back. I want to go back to Elko for a minute, Olin. Yeah. And one of the things that I thought, one of the things I was really impressed with him, not only at SEC Media Days, but I read a story. Maybe you even wrote it about how at his coach's show last week or the first week, he went around and talked to every fan, signed every autograph, took every picture, and someone sometimes was late to his own radio show, and Jimbo would sit up there and not want to talk to anybody and get out of there as soon as possible. And that means a lot to the fans when your coach is available and accessible. Just take a freaking picture with you, man. Just like Ron was saying up here earlier, you can't control the fans, but the fans want to feel part of the program. And if they can, take a picture with you or get a helmet signed or something, or bring their kid to the show and get their kid a picture with it, that means a lot. And I think I was really impressed that Elko was doing that.
Olin, you're muted. Yeah. Okay. Well,
muted?
Yeah. Now you are. Here you come. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Here we go. Yeah. Now we got you now.
Okay. He's definitely part of the community.
Yeah.
And I think one of the, especially when you want people to contribute to NIL and stuff like that, I think that's wise. I think that's something that was, go back to R.C. Slocum. He was great at, and every coach ever here should follow him. R.C. would be at the grocery store, the local H-E-B, and of course people would recognize him, come up and want to talk. R.C. would listen to him, and you can't talk about R.C. without trying to do an R.C. voice. And he'd say, well, I appreciate all your support. Now I got to run out there and try to figure out how to beat those Longhorns. But thank you for supporting us. But just to acknowledge them and move on. You don't have to have dinner with them. And that's what Mike has learned from that. And I think it's going to serve him well.
Yeah.
But that said, if they don't win, it doesn't matter how nice you are in public. They'll say, hey, RC. Well, they fired RC, so it doesn't matter how good you are in the community.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing is that I think if you are nice and you are endearing yourself to the fans, you might get an extra year.
Benefit of doubt.
Yeah, I think about coaches. I love to hear stories about years ago coaches would say, hey, come by the house after the game. We're having people come by, And one of my friends, Dr. Galena, rest his soul, would go by Shug Jordan's house over there in Auburn on Woodfield Drive, what they call the Art District, and come by and he'd meet you at the door and go, Chuck, how you doing? And he remember you, and it's like I just think that says so much. There's nothing though like when writers, and all three of y'all Hall of Fame writers, you've been doing it a while, when you sit down after the game in the locker room or whatever and you talk to the players and you get that emotional reaction. We just got a few minutes left, but that part of it, that endears you too. And I think fans already paying for season tickets, seat licenses. Now you're paying for NIL. I think the fans are going to be even more vested and expect even more of a return on their investment. So if we think it's been, hot in the kitchen when you're not winning or not playing well enough, I think it's just going to get more intense.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also creating interest, guys. I believe.
Oh, no doubt about that. I was talking to somebody last week about this. In the past, when you're a writer, if you dare to criticize a college player, you get all this flack from people saying that could be your son. I mean, how can you criticize him? Well, you know what? Now they're getting paid.
Yep.
Does that take the gloves off somewhat? I think so. They're paid now. A lot of them are paid. So if I want to say LSU's left offensive tackle Will Campbell is getting paid, but he said jumped off sides 3 times now in 2 games. What's the deal?
Wow. I
can say that without somebody saying, well, that could be your son. Well,
yeah,
it was my son. I say, well, stop jumping off sides.
There you go.
Ron,
I love the honesty of this.
I love this panel. I think you can be a little more critical of players now because they are getting paid. Now, I keep in mind, I know they're 21 or 22, but those 21, 20 years are making deals. They're bargaining with schools, okay?
Yeah.
This school's going to pay me this. What are you going to pay me? So they're not like Beaver Cleaver here. They're going in and making deals.
Yeah.
And so I think writers should be able to be more critical without getting flack in the public saying this is somebody's son. Well, they're getting paid well now. A lot of these guys are they're getting paid 6 figures. Okay.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think you have a right to. I think the rules have changed somewhat. What do you guys think, Olin?
Well, I think you're right. I just think you guys must be on the cheap over there in Louisiana because I think there's some 7 figures going on this side of the Sabine.
I'm sure there's somebody with a 7-figure here, but I'm not. But hey, look, everything in Texas. Man.
I agree with everything you said.
Hey, Ron, let me tell you, living in Memphis, we always hear that's something said on this side of the Mississippi or that side. I've never heard anybody say that's a little different on this side of the Sabine, Beaumont, Port Arthur. This is what I love about getting these guys on, having y'all on here. I cannot thank y'all enough for sharing your Monday morning with us. I love it, and can kind of respond also to what Ron threw out there because. It's somebody's son. Well, I know, Ron, your son played at Mississippi State, was an offensive lineman.
He was there for a year. They went to Southeastern under Hal Mumme. Yeah, he played on Hal Mumme at Southeastern for a couple of years. I understand the whole thing about that's your kid, but you're getting paid now. Okay, it's different. You're getting paid. Okay, that's the whole thing. All you heard from years from players, we should be getting paid. Well, now you're getting paid. Well, now that you're getting paid, part of it is accountability. And if you're not doing your job and screwing up, you're going to be criticized, just like you are in the real world. Welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
Okay? You're getting paid. You don't do your job.
Yeah,
you'll get criticized. This is the way it is.
That's why Ron gets criticized so often because he gets paid so much.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
I love the honor. Ken, your take on that. I want to hear what you say.
Well, no, we had kind of had this firsthand. It was a long time ago, but, we were very, very good. And Ron will definitely love this. we were very good friends, still are very good friends with Major Applewhite's parents, Larry and Sandra. And, so we would sit with them at the games. We would tailgate with them at the games. And, that was back when it was the Applegate Sims controversy. And, we would have people sitting around us all the time, criticizing the hell out of Major. And that was the thing. I'd go, hey, he's got a family over here in these stands, knock it off. And, Major sucks, and yelling stuff like that. We didn't like that at all. And of course, then when he won the holiday, come back, everybody's like jumping around and, crying and, loving on him. So I know how that works, but yeah, I agree. I mean, these guys are making great money. I mean, gosh, Quinn Ewers is going to be having free Dr. Pepper for life now on all these great Fansville commercials. So they're going to, they have to face the music just like the pros do every week.
Yeah, look, guys, we've run out of time, but I cannot say enough. Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com, Ron Higgins, Shreveport Bossier Journal, Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, Coach Ellis Johnson in that first segment, breaking down the games, executive producer Brendan Martin. Look, as I always say at Mass, Father John MacArthur, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We are so blessed in this country. Think about every day what you can do to help other people. Follow all of our guests. Let's grow their brands. We cannot do it without them, and support all of our generous sponsors. So again, thanks everybody so much for your time watching us and our incredible guests. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Good night, everyone. Good morning.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shopp's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal and the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.